right, hello everyone, and welcome to Bob's Lunch Break. And yeah, I know it's a lot later than it usually is. I just got home from work and I haven't eaten all day, so I grabbed a burger on the way home. I'm just now sitting down to drink some tea. And today, we're gonna have one of those awkward conversations that'll probably get me in trouble. So today we're gonna talk about how conservative and tolerant, racist, all that stuff are Americans compared to other people. And I had an interesting conversation with a good friend of mine, one of my best friends who lives in New York, and we were talking on the phone while I was driving to work earlier. And he, he's a lot more liberal than I am, and he had, he wanted to express, he was expressing his opinions, and we were talking. It was a very interesting conversation, and I got to thinking about it while I was working, and so maybe we'll discuss some of that here in a bit. But first, our legal disclaimer. This show is a work of fiction and is for entertainment purposes only. Any resemblance to real world people or events is purely coincidental. Just had to get that out of the way. All right, hey guys, how's it going? So I'm back from work. I've got my tea. I already ate the burger. I was so hungry. Oh, my hair's a mess. That's why I usually wear a hat, because my hair's just a mess all the time. But that's all right. Whatever. And yeah, the AI ladies were weird. They didn't come out very well. This is the little. Well, I'll pull it back up again. I asked Mid Journey to draw a picture of an orc drinking a cup of tea, with some hot girls with guns and money in front of an American flag, and this is what it drew me. So it came out a little weird, but it's all in good fun. I wanted something really kind of crazy for my lunch break thing. And all right, so I'm gonna hop into Discord with Vorgath, because Vorgath's a Canadian, and Canadians, as you know, are the nicest people on the planet. So hey Vorgath, how you doing?
Not too bad.
So actually, I'm gonna drag us into a different channel because I don't want other people in on. All right, can you still talk, Vorgath?
Yes, I can still
All
talk.
right. Yeah, I dragged us into the. I mean, you're the Discord admin, so. Anyway, so I thought today we would have a conversation talking about how conservative Americans are, how tolerant Americans are. There's always the topic of race and various other things. And I had a really interesting conversation with a good friend of mine from New York. We grew up together. He's probably one of my three best friends on the planet. We don't. We often agree on the problems. We don't always agree on the solutions. He's definitely a lot more liberal. Yes, yes, you're right. Other guy, Canadians are the nicest people on the planet until you end up fighting them in war. Yes, quite often the Canadians view the Geneva Convention as a set of guidelines rather than rules. We know all about their shooting at people's uniforms with anti-material rifles. So the first thing I wanted to do is I made a little thing. Let's talk about how conservative Americans are. So as always, we measure conservative on a scale from one to Serbia, and this is sort of the maybe this is more of a Greek Orthodox joke, but if you have traveled the world, you know that this is sort of your standard way of measuring how liberal and conservative people are. Because when Yugoslavia broke up, they had some shit went down in the 90s in Yugoslavia, in the early 2000s, late 90s, and and the Serbians became very hardcore Christians. So um, so I would argue that like I had a recent trip to Istanbul over the summer, and I was walking around with my girlfriend, and she was wearing a kind of a skimpy T-shirt and short shorts because it was really hot, and she is from a cold weather climate, and the everybody was staring at us like we were a bunch of heathens, and we both come from cultures where we don't really care about what other people think. But if you're going to be scolded for wearing what would be considered normal clothes in America, that's pretty conservative, right? So like some of these like Islamic countries are very, very traditional. Maybe maybe not quite as militant and traditional as Serbia, but I would argue that Turkey is pretty. They're probably a solid 8 or a 9. I mean, they're pretty conservative. Is most of the Middle East is pretty darn conservative, and I'm not just talking about the Muslims. I'm talking about the Christians out there are pretty conservative too. Vorgath, what are your thoughts? Have you now you've been to Africa, right?
Yeah, but
Where does Africa? Where were you at in Africa?
I was in Ghana.
Ghana. Where
Uh,
where where do you think Ghana falls? Because I would argue that like Canada's probably at like a 3 or something. They're not as liberal as like Sweden or Norway or someplace, but maybe they are more liberal. I mean, let's start with Canada. Where does Canada fit on this scale? Where do you
oh
think?
hell if I know. I don't really follow that scale at all.
Well, because
I
you
know.
live in the middle of nowhere, but
Yeah.
I would.
See, a lot of the liberal talking points, I agree with them, but then you get into their ideas for implementation and what to do about it, and it's like, okay, that's way, way too far.
Well, a lot of the
Dial it back a bit.
implementation seems to all be about who can embezzle money rather than actually help people. That's what I've always. So I guess let's start with this. Do you think Canada is more liberal or more conservative than America? I mean, both countries have large, diverse populations with a wide variety of views.
I don't think we're nearly as religious as the states are
Yeah, that's
in
probably
most.
true. So we'll probably put Canada somewhere. So Canada's probably somewhere towards the more liberal side of things, right?
That doesn't mean we don't have our religious nuts.
Well, everybody has.
Like,
I'm not talking about like the outliers. Everybody's got their outliers and religious nuts. Um, because I would almost say that Europe is probably more liberal than Western Europe. I would say is probably more liberal than. So like Western Europe is probably about as liberal as you get. Would be kind of my thought because some of the stuff. Well, Canada does some pretty crazy stuff too, though. But you're not like deliberately replacing your population with immigrants that hate your culture, are you?
eh, eh,
Kind of a little bit.
well, I do work with a lot of East Indian guys in my job, and
Yeah.
they're all decent people, as far as I can tell.
Where do the East
There
Indian
are a
people
lot of
kind of
them
fall
coming over
into?
here.
Are they pretty? Where do you think they fall in line on this?
I honestly never
Yeah.
talk to them about it. We just chat a bit, but it's never really about politics or anything.
So when I've talked to Africans, they seem to be by and large more conservative than Americans are.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But they're not
Uh,
like I don't know if they're quite as conservative as like the Middle East, but they're definitely and and I don't really want to say all of Africa just because Africa's a huge place, but I don't have enough experience with Africa to really know. I just know the foreign exchange students that I've met and my roommate. So I would say Africa's probably on the we'll just sort of put them slightly right of center, but not quite Middle East. Uh, you've got because then you've got like Russia and Ukraine and places like that, Eastern Europe.
to be fair, most of us are hoping to get rid of our liberal prime minister.
But that's because he's a dumbass. I mean, no offense to Castro, he's a dumbass, but I would say that Eastern Russian, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe, they're probably a solid like 7 to 8. I mean, I I was in Ukraine in 2014, and I heard some of the most racist jokes that you can imagine. And I was in Moscow a few years ago, hanging out with. I was in the airport on a layover, and a couple of my Russian friends came and hung out with me because I had like this 16-hour layover in Moscow. This is a brutal layover, and we all hung out at this kind of 24-hour food court thing that they had there. And the one of the Russians is the most gay liberal Russian I know. And when I was asking him about his thoughts on gay marriage and stuff like that, and he was of the impression that you can't have gay marriage because you know two men can't get married because he's Russian Orthodox and they're not quite as conservative as Serbia. Actually, I'll probably scooch them over here. I'd put them almost as conservative as the Middle East. I mean, they kind of span a bit, but I would say that Russia, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe they can span anywhere from like a 7 to a 9 because they some of those guys are pretty hardcore. I was sitting next to a Polish guy on the at the airport once in oh, where the hell were we? We were in I think I might have been flying back from London, and he was sitting next to this next to a full burqa wearing Muslim gal. I couldn't tell what country she was from because you couldn't see anything from but the eye slits. Given that it's London is probably like Pakistan or someplace like that, Afghanistan, and he was ripping into her pretty hard. He was pretty based. Um, and so I think that America's probably more religiously conservative than Canada. I agree with you on that. And I think that but we're definitely more liberal than Eastern Europe and Africa. Because like all the African foreign exchange students that I talk to are always talking about how liberal America is. And we get quite a number of those. So I mean, I would put America at like a 4 to a 5 somewhere in that area because we're definitely more
Despite
concerned.
what some people think.
Well,
Oh
well,
yeah,
the
you're so much more conservative than
well,
most of Europe and
right. Well, I
North
think I
America.
think that they compare us to Western Europe and the EU and Canada, which yeah, we're definitely more conservative than Western
Maybe
Europe. And
slightly.
you think slight? You think we're close? You think we're closer to like here, like maybe a
You're
4?
you're a lot closer to us than a
So
lot of
so you're thinking
the
like a
liberals in the states think.
so you're thinking we're like America's like a 3 to a 4, like we're almost. So you think we're about the same as Canada, except we're a little bit more gaudy.
Yeah, pretty much.
I
Like
mean,
you got the extreme. Well, everyone's got extremes on both sides.
right. I'm not counting any of the extremes. So we're not counting Nazis. We're not counting communists. We're not counting like the Westboro Baptist churches. We're not counting the jihadis. We're not counting
Yeah,
any of those. I'm not talking about
but yeah,
any of the
you're really
extremes.
not that far off.
And
Though my brother, he's worked in the states, and he had to say, "Holy shit, are you guys racist?"
talking about us.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, Americans are racist as shit. I mean, it's.
he thought we were bad, and like, oh no, it's so much worse.
Oh no, Americans are racist. Yeah, without a doubt. But I mean, compared to some of the shit that I've heard when I was traveling in Eastern Europe, holy crap. Um, I have heard, and I'm not even going to repeat what I heard. I'll tell you in private sometime, and you'll be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they said that." But so like, it's like I can't really tell the difference between a Ukrainian and a Russian, but boy, they sure as fuck can. Um, I can't really tell the difference between a Pole and a Hungarian, but boy, they sure as fuck can. And I can't really tell the difference between different flavors of people from the Middle East. When I was in Turkey. I was talking. It's when I was actually getting this leather jacket made for me. I was talking to the people at the tailoring shop because I have to have my jackets custom tailored because my shoulders are abnormally sized, and I was asking them about different stuff in the Middle East and whatnot. And it was some of the shit they said about the Palestinians. I was like, holy crap! I mean, there's a reason that the Palestinians are getting genocided and nobody really cares about it because the people in the Middle East don't want them. And I'm like, oh my god, I mean, holy crap. And it's not like they like what Israel's doing, but they're like, we don't want them here. But like a lot of, or like the Syrian refugees, that all pass through Turkey into Europe. They're like, we don't want them here. I'm like, holy crap. So I mean, some of the shit and Turkey's pretty. My understanding is that compared to other parts of the Middle East, Turkey's pretty liberal. So I mean, I might even put Turkey. Oops, wrong one.
And well, speaking of Palestine, it makes me laugh because Palestine is very, very conservative themselves, and
Yeah.
would and all the liberals for Palestine in the U.S. are like, dude, they would go against everything you believe in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like the gays for Palestine get their asses murdered. So actually, I'm actually gonna put Turkey in the Middle East kind of on a spread. Um, because some parts of the Middle East are probably as conservative as Serbia. So I would actually put it kind of like, maybe kind of a spread there like this because you've got like Dubai is probably pretty liberal for the Middle East. Maybe this is a more realistic layout. And what my Turkish friends were telling me is that a lot of it has to do with education. That the more educated the Turks are, the more liberal they tend to be. Which that might be true in general. I'm not sure. I think that certainly as what I've found is that the more that I've traveled the world, and I've traveled all over the place, because of mom's opera career and just because I like to travel and explore new cultures and stuff. Um, I I find that the more that I travel, the more tolerant I become of other people, but the more I appreciate what I've got. I mean, I am very cool with I'm very cool with Turkey being Turkey and Russia being Russia and England being England, but I'm very happy to be, where I am. I have a feeling that America might be a little bit more. I would almost put America between a 3 and a 4. I think we have it probably. Uh, it's so hard to tell because right now we're seeing a backlash, a massive backlash against what I would call Democrat overreach. Where I think that I would probably put Canada between a 2 and a 4, and America between a 3 and a 4. Um, because I think that we've seen a massive backlash whenever one side goes too far. Um, I think in the early 2000s, I think Republicans went too far, especially with all the Iraq stuff and 9/11 and just sort of the overreaction to a lot of uh, not that we shouldn't have overreacted to 9/11, but where they implemented like the Patriot Act and all the domestic spying and all that stuff that pissed off a lot of Americans and really put us up against Bush, right? Where I think Bush went too far, and then you had Obama come in and he went too far, kind of in the other direction. Um, so I think you get a lot of backlash in America, but just the fact that America allows gay marriage is very alien to a lot of Eastern European countries. Uh, like in most of the Eastern European countries that I've been to, they have various programs that will pay money, tax relief, etc., to families that have that have 3 or more kids, but only if they stay married. And so, like here in America, we give money to a single mom so she can raise her kids. Whereas in many parts of Eastern Europe, if you're a single mom and want to get money to help raise your kids, you better fucking get married again. And it's that's a lot more conservative than America is.
That actually reminds me there is an option for immigration to Canada where it's an unmarried partner who is same sex.
Hmm.
Oh, they'll if they're in danger, they'll get you right here as fast as possible.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Well, and I do think that people who are in danger should. I'm actually put America closer to about a 4, because I mean there are some elements of America that are pretty traditional. Uh, and we have been moving to the right. So I would actually say that America's probably like a 4 to a 5, but that might be my personal bias. I mean, all of the all of the all of the Europeans, what certainly Eastern Europeans that I talked to, but even when I was in talking to my Greek friend, I was talking to Christina about maybe someday I'll retire in Greece because I really like Greece, and she's like, oh, you wouldn't like it here. They're so conservative, and they gossip, and in some of the small towns. I mean, like Athens is different. Athens is much more liberal, but in some of the small towns in Greece, they would see me as being, very far to the left. I'm like, I mean, I don't often get accused of being a liberal. I mean, when I travel in Eastern Europe, they think that I'm pretty liberal. Um, but it's interesting to me that I really think that a lot of people just haven't traveled around and seen the other options. Haven't seen what else is out there. Uh, and where would you put Australia? I wish Maddie would hear. I think Australia is probably pretty liberal also. Without knowing specifically, I would guess
I
that.
can't even say specifically about my own country, so
Um, I'm just gonna call it like the Anglo countries. Anglo countries are probably because I think that we're definitely U.S. is more conservative than the other Anglo countries, and I think Canada largely gets a bad rap because of Trudeau. I mean, I know some people like him, but I mean, he's y'all's problem, so it's you know, I mean, yep. We have our Trumps and Bidens, and you've got your Trudeaus. Um, I wonder where like Mexico and Brazil and some of those countries would be. I would imagine that they would be, because they're,
I'm pretty sure like Mexico's a lot more conservative.
yeah. Is Mexico that ICO or ACO? I'm so bad at spelling. We're gonna Google this real quick. I can't believe I don't.
It's
It's
ICO.
ICO. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, I would imagine that Mexico's probably like a solid 6 or 7, because they're very big into traditional family values. They're Catholic. Um, because I don't think I've ever met a Mexican that was more liberal than. Uh, I've never met a Mexican that's more liberal than me. That's for sure. I mean, I'm not counting about like the crazy college activists and stuff, but I don't know where they come from. Um. Oh, yeah. No, you're right, other guy. No, I mean, America is hard to put in any one spot just because you have a bit like Oklahoma is way more conservative than like California, right? Or New York. But I'm just saying, if you took the average of America, um, I think the average of America is still more liberal than the average of Mexico. That would be my instinct. And I think the average of America is probably more conservative than the average of Canada or England or New Zealand or Australia or any of those any of the Anglo places. Um, that would be just kind of my general that'd be just kind of my general guess. Um, and and as far as tolerant goes and stuff like that, I mean, I think that most countries are racist. It just, it's just, I think that's probably the natural state for humans to dislike the outsider, and it's just a
Well,
matter of,
it all goes down to tribalism. Like,
yeah. I mean,
okay, this is
people are
my
tribal.
tribe. That's
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. I think that if you look at our laws, our laws try to compensate. Um, actually,
like we try to be better than this, but it's kind of hardwired into us.
yeah, what's surprising? One of the least racist places I've been to was actually Russia. That really surprised me because they're so conservative. But they had a lot of different ethnicities there, a lot of indigenous people, a lot of they've got like 200 ethnicities in Russia. I mean, they're all various forms of what we would consider like white and Asiatic and stuff like that, Mongolian types. But they all seem to get along fine. Now, I don't. I'd have to talk to my friends more about that, but I didn't see any overt racism when I was there, right? But not compared to when I've been in the Middle East or other places in Eastern Europe. Well, even actually no, you know what? Eastern Europe wasn't even that racist. They just didn't like other cultures. I think that's what it. The big problem because the big problem that the Polish guy had wasn't that the lady was Pakistani. He just didn't like that she was Muslim. And because Eastern Europe has had a big conflict with the Muslims for a long time. Oh my God, my Romanian. I got to put Romania on here. Romania is part of Eastern Europe. One of my Romanian friends, wow. Uh, she's not. I don't want to say that she's racist, but boy is she anti-Muslim. But she lives in the UK. She lives in London and has to deal with all the stabbiness and rapiness that seems to be happening in England right now. So that might also be why. So
Yeah, see, I'm not really a fan of religion. Mostly the more.
you don't like the stabby religions,
Oh, definitely not.
yeah. So um, well, I think it depends that some people it really just comes down to whether you interpret your religion as a religion of conquest or a religion of peace, and you know
Peace through
as
conquest.
as I mean there are a lot of people who believe in peace through conquest. I know that as a Greek Orthodox, we're very like peaceful, chill Christians. We just want to be left alone and not be invaded by anybody. But but also, you've got on the more extreme side of Orthodox Christianity, of Eastern Christianity, you have, the Romanians who had their Vlad the Impaler. You've got the Serbians who had to deal with that really messy civil war, um, that that NATO had some hand in. So I think a lot of it also comes down to what you've had to go through. And so it's hard for me to judge people who've had to deal with a lot of recent bullshit. Um, and America has we've got a complicated history with, because the Native Americans kind of got fucked. I mean, let's just throw that out there. They kind of got fucked.
Well, yeah. Our history in that regard is just as bad, if not worse.
It's spotty at best. It is not a great history, right? Um,
It is not.
and modern America doesn't have a there is no indigenous modern American, right? The Native Americans really got conquered by modern Americans, and so they're not really, and they got absorbed into America after the fact. Because I don't think Native Americans really became American citizens until the 14th Amendment, right? When we gave citizenship to the freed slaves, and I think the natives at the same time. I'd have to have a constitutional scholar fact check me on that. And but I mean, America was definitely a colonial power. We took over the continent. Our manifest destiny, whether you agree with the idea or not, was not beneficial for the people who were already here, which is one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of open borders. We have a definite example in history of when open borders did not work out well for America in the you know 1600s, 1700s. Part of it comes down to what do you do now? Let's go. We can go, we can go get rid of our liberal conservative chart. I mostly just was looking for an excuse to measure conservatives on a scale of 1 to Serbia, because that's a bit of a joke where I come from. But what do you do about it now? Um, what what do the Canadians think of Trump and all the stuff going on? Like I've been telling people here, the past couple of weeks has been a really long year. What do y'all think about it? I guess you guys are pretty divided on the topic, probably.
I haven't been following much, just laughing at all the shit that's flung from both sides.
Yeah, I guess it's. Oh my, are we a bunch of normies? Holy shit, Vorgath, we're probably a bunch of normies.
I think we
I think we are. We're just some fat guys that play video games on the internet. We're a bunch of normies. Oh my god. Well, this is probably why my friend called me the militant moderate, because I see myself as being kind of middle of the road. I mean, I'm conservative compared to him, but um, by American standards, I'm probably pretty middle of the road. Certainly by global standards, I'm not as liberal as the crazy Western Europeans, and I'm not as conservative as the Eastern Europeans. Certainly not as conservative as people in the Middle East. Um, I don't have a good scale for Africa or Asia. Although, Asians, I didn't put Asians on that chart. I need to add. I need to add Asia. I didn't even think about Asia. Um, I think most places in Asia. I think Asians are about there with Mexicans. They've got traditional family values. Asians seem to be some pretty tolerant about some weird shit. I mean, look at the various Japanese vending machines and the Thai. There's some weird shit that happens in Asia. I've never been to Asia, but I have friends who have been to Asia. There's some weird shit that happens in Asia. So we can't. I guess we'll call it East Asia. So I would put East Asia on kind of like a 5 to a 7 maybe, because like some of the Asians are pretty conservative and some of them are a little bit out there. And I don't even pretend to understand the cultures. We need to add that to the list just to be complete. Um, but what do we do now? I mean, our system's so fucked up in many ways, but I'm not a fan of burning it to the ground because bad things happen in chaos. I'm not a fan of chaos because I don't think that ever because that's whenever you have revolutions, 9 times out of 10, somebody worse takes over, and so I'm always very cautious about revolutions, and maybe that's the conservative in me. Um, but I do definitely believe in incremental change towards a better future. Uh, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where to go. I don't. You know. I've always been of the impression that I tend to focus on small scale and community stuff. If I can focus on my community and you can focus on your community, because what happens in my community has a far greater impact than whatever crazy shit Trump or Biden or whoever does. You know, whatever Putin's doing has practically no bearing on my on my day-to-day life. So I don't hardly even care about international events other than my desire to travel and from an intellectual standpoint. But because I think everybody's so busy just trying to day to day pay the bills, I don't think there's much that people can do about it. I mean, how much free time do you have on a given basis?
Actually, more than I need.
Oh well, time to get that second job.
Yeah, I could really use the extra income.
Well, get your butt down here, learn how to fix laptops. So I guess my big thesis about this is that after traveling the world to what extent I have, and I'm not going to say I'm the best world traveler out there, but I've been to some places, and more specifically, when I travel, I don't stay in fancy places. I go among the people who live there, and I try to embed myself within the culture and see how normal people live day to day, because that's what fascinates me. Um, Granted, when we were in Istanbul, we almost exclusively ate at Burger King because my girlfriend didn't like the Turkish food that much, which I loved the Turkish food. I thought it was great, but she didn't like it so much. It was a little bit too spicy. I thought Turkish food was kind of like Greek food with a little bit of zing, and I thought it was great. But it kind of upset her stomach, so we went to we went to Burger King a lot, which is like the most American thing ever. But I don't know. I feel like the more I travel, the more I appreciate what I have here in America, even though we're flawed. We're obviously flawed. Um, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, that's for sure. Now the counter argument to that would be, I'm a straight white Christian male, which means that I'm at the pinnacle of American society, which I'm not sure if I fully agree with that or not, but I'd certainly rather be a straight white Christian male than like a black non-binary Muslim lesbian. I'm sure those people would have it really rough. So I mean, I'm not going to. I don't wish for a different life. I'm not going to pity myself. Oh, it's so difficult being a straight white Christian male. I'm not going to insult people by disparaging my own life. Um, and I think that people have unique challenges that are individual to themselves that nobody else can really comprehend. My challenges are my own to overcome, and just like your challenges, Vorgath, are yours to overcome. Um, but when people are talking about like privilege and stuff like that, they're talking about as a demographic group, and I don't. Uh, other than some racism that I encountered when I was a kid, and that was from other Greek kids who made fun of me being whiter than they were, because Greeks are normally more olive skinned, and I got more of the American genes from my dad's side of the family, so I'm kind of a pasty white boy Greek. Uh,
Yeah, well, so apparently I'm not in the demographic I thought I was.
oh, what demographic are you? Or what did you
I'm
think?
I'm only I'm only 95.9% white.
Oh, okay, Elizabeth Warren.
Hey, apparently it counts enough to be registered as Métis.
Really?
Apparently.
Like 5%? Because I think here you've got
No,
to
no, no, no.
three
3.6%.
point six. Jesus, because here to be registered as a native, you have to be able to trace your
Uh,
roots back, and it has to be because I think Torgal's about as white as you can get and still be considered a Native American, because she's like 1/16th Native or something like that, or 1/8. I haven't talked to her about it in a long
See,
time.
I think no, Métis is not native. It's a
Oh,
separate demographic.
what is Métis?
It's basically mixed breed.
Okay. I mean, here in
Uh,
America, we just call that American because.
yeah, well, no, what it is here is if your mother was native, then you're Métis. If your father was native, you're native.
Well, that sounds awfully sexist.
Yes.
I mean, we might have to move Canada over closer to Serbia now. Y'all are a bunch of sexists.
Hey, I don't set those rules. That's the tribes that set those
Oh,
rules.
okay. Well, well, tribal societies tend to be a lot more patriarchal and conservative, I think. Um, I don't I don't know who I would ask about that. Um, because if I were to, because a lot of my Native American friends well, most of my friends in general are just all random outliers and not necessarily representative of the demographic that they allegedly are part of. Um,
So
I'd
yeah,
have to think about
my
that.
mother wants me to fill out the forms to be registered as Métis for the benefits.
Well, I mean, free government money. I mean, you're paying the taxes anyway. Might as well take the money.
Yeah,
So I'd
and that's the biggest difference. If you're native, you get the treaty and you don't pay taxes.
Well,
Métis do pay taxes.
okay. I don't know how it works here in.
At least I think that's how it
I don't
does.
know how it works here in Oklahoma because I know that we have a number of different tribal nations inside of the state of Oklahoma, and they have different jurisdictional concerns, especially regarding laws and um, I think that like if I commit a crime on tribal land, I'm not sure if I go to tribal court or if I go to Oklahoma court. Kind of depends on where the crime is committed and if the tribal court wants to deal with me or not. But I think that they have jurisdiction over if a native commits a crime, then the native can be tried in tribal court rather than Oklahoma court, I believe. I know there's some Supreme Court ruling on it. And I used to know what that was, and I can't think of it off the top of my head now. Um, Oklahoma is very complicated regarding judicial jurisdiction. Because we have, because after the Trail of Tears, a lot of tribes got resettled here. But then there's some tribes that, have their original lands because they made a treaty with the U.S. and were never conquered. So you've got, I think is it the Chickashaws? Uh, when I'm driving down to Texas, there's a big casino, and on the gas station, they have a big sign that reminds everybody that they were never conquered, which good for them, good for them for not getting conquered. I'm proud of them. I think people shouldn't get conquered. I'm generally opposed to people getting conquered. Um, well, and that's the awkward thing that it's like my family's been here in America since I think the first Deaver came to America in 1503 with the Spanish conquistadors, and then promptly died in Florida in 1503. So, I mean, he didn't do very well. But my immediate family came over in the early 1600s, and my understanding from family history, there's a book that was written about the early Deavers who settled in Ohio. They founded a trading post, and they did peaceful commerce between the Europeans and the natives, and just kind of didn't get in anybody's business. Um, so I don't have any I don't have any guilt about what my family did. My family ran, the portions of the Underground Railroad in Kansas before the Civil War. So I mean, I'm not going to feel guilty about my ancestry. My family always conducted itself with honor, and I hope that I can, uphold those values in my generation.
As
But I,
far as I'm aware, I could say the same for my family.
yeah, I mean, but I know that there's some people who, they did naughty things in the past, and but should the great grandchildren have to atone for the sins of their great grandparents? I mean,
No.
that seems a little bit. How would you even deal with that? So I don't know how you I don't know
Well,
how you
that's
resolve that.
why the whole reparations thing is completely nonsense. Unless you like actually suffered it, there's no point because you go back far enough, you'd be giving reparations to everyone.
Yeah, well, well, I know from my Greek family history, the Greeks were conquered by the Turks and enslaved and eventually rebelled, and so my Greek ancestors were enslaved by the Turks and eventually cast them out. But I don't expect any reparations from the Turks, and I don't hold any ill will towards the Turks either. I mean, I'll poke fun at them a little bit, but um, uh, but I don't hold any ill will towards anybody. I mean, now, granted, I never suffered the direct consequences of any of that. But no, I mean, and the idea of reparations, how do you? I see it as more of a logistical problem. How do you even solve that? Because most of Americans at this point have both slave and slave owner blood in their family genetics somewhere. Well, maybe not most, but certainly a lot of them do. I would imagine. How would you sort all of that out? And there's been so
And
much interracial marriage at this point, and you know, some of it was forced. We know that a lot of slave owners would force themselves upon their slaves, and that's bad. And you know, I'd say they should be punished for that, but I'm sure all those people died, a century ago. So what do you do about it? And from a practical matter, I see things as a matter of we have to focus on moving forward in the future and making things better for our children and our grandchildren. Um, but people have legitimate grievances that have to be somehow addressed. Um, the Christian in me would say forgive and move on, but that's easier said than done. So I don't know how to get past that. But I do think that at a foundational level, I think that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were aspirational documents written by flawed men who wished to aspire to better things, and they never reached those goals, and we still haven't reached those aspirational goals. But I see America as a journey of taking aspirational steps forward towards a better future, and sometimes we take steps in the wrong direction. But as a whole, I would like to think as a whole that over the last 250 years we've gone further forward than we've gone backwards, right? I think that we are overall in a better situation now than we were 250 years ago. Although that's maybe hard to judge because I haven't necessarily suffered the ills that some other people have. Um, so I'm not sure quite how to address that or how to square that circle. Now I know Canada's had some complicated problems too. Um, Now, does Canada's history roughly parallel America's? How does that work out?
Well, it wasn't the slavery, but what was done to the native population was pretty horrific.
So, did you guys do worse stuff to the natives than the Americans did, or is it more on this? It was
That
about the same
I
level.
don't know.
I guess hard to tell. How do natives typically feel in Canada nowadays towards the majority Canadian population at this point? Is there animosity still, or does everybody just kind of put up with each other?
Well, I've made friends from pretty much every demographic I've met in my area. Like so, but it's hard to say really.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how's this? My mother always tells me how much she hates natives.
Right.
And the thing is, well, she's worked with natives and that's never been a problem. The problem was this one time she went to lunch with one of her colleagues, a native, and while they were out, uh, his friends, or yeah, friends, came up to him and was like, "Oh, what? You trying to be white now? Just because he's trying to uh, succeed in life, I guess." And yeah, that's really soured her views on the whole subject.
Well, and that might be more of a matter of human nature in that people at the bottom of the heap tend to pull down anybody trying. It's the lobster thing, you know. One lobster can climb out of a bucket, but a bunch of lobsters can't get out of the bucket because any lobster that starts to climb out gets dragged down by the others. And
And
fucking Jordan Peterson and your damn lobsters, you fucking Canadians and your Jordan
uh,
Peterson. Actually, we're taking Jordan Peterson from you guys.
yeah, that's pretty much happened
Now,
already.
now you're stuck with Gad Sad, who's like diet Jordan Peterson. I mean, he's still pretty fascinating dude. We're gonna take him too. Um,
Okay, he has said some good things. Peterson said some good things, but then he said some really dumbass.
he has said some things that I disagree with, but um, but
Uh,
I like the lobster stuff because it does seem to hold true. But I think that it's a mistake. I read something once where they're talking about how like being on time is a white thing, and I can tell you as a white guy that I am never on time. My mom's Greek, so she, depending on your point of view, is either white or a people of color. I guess depending on how you vote. Um, but and I always thought that whole distinction was kind of dumb anyway, because people are just people. Uh, but calling
Speaking
some.
of, apparently I'm 1.4% Greek in Balton.
Oh, there you go. I mean, I take a lot of shit for only being half Greek, so I mean, you know, I was scolded once by my Greek friends. I'd talked about I'd made a comment about being Greek, and some of my Greek friends were present, and they very harshly reminded me that I was only half Greek, and I was scolded. So you might not mention to Greeks that you're 1% Greek, or they're gonna ridicule you. Apparently, um, which in many ways I grew up in the Greek side of the family because my dad was an only child, so I identified much more with the Greeks than I did as a young child with the more American side of the family. I mean, granted, my Greek side of the family had been here a little bit also, but they were uh, all 100% Greek genetics through mom's generation. But I think calling somebody white because they want to be on time or want to be successful, I think is disrespectful to other races. I know I had a roommate in college who was Ethiopian, and he was the hardest fucking working person I had ever met, just about. And he was passionate. He was an architectural engineering major, and he was working on prefab concrete technology so that he could bring affordable housing to Ethiopia. And he worked his butt off. He was always on time. He was always hardworking. He always put in the extra hours. And I mean, if you were to judge him by those standards, he was whiter than I am. Then, if that, and I think that would be insulting to him to say that. He was just a very hardworking individual. But no, I think that when people make fun of other people for hanging out with different races or aspiring to be successful or any of that, I think that's just unproductive. Because I've seen very aspirational people, very ambitious. That's the word I'm looking for. I've seen very ambitious people of all races, and I've
There,
seen.
I posted in general chat
I
my
mean,
23andMe profile.
43% Eastern European, 35% British, a little bit of French and German, broadly Northwestern European.
4.2%.
Yeah, 100% me. Yeah, I. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I've never submitted myself to any of the genetic tests. I'm not. I'm not super interested because I've got. There's this genealogy lady who uh, gave Dad all the family genealogy stuff, and she traced the genealogy back all the way back to the time of Charlemagne. So I mean, it's um, and it's. I mean, the Greek side of the family was always in Greece. About half the Greek family was the crazy island Greeks who go fishing in hurricanes and Mediterranean storms, and the other half of the Greek family were from the Peloponnesus. So you've seen the movie 300, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're not, how the Spartans were. We weren't. I'm not descended from the Spartans. I'm descended from the Arcadians who were crazy enough to go with the Spartans, apparently. And that's the Greek side of the family. And then, Dad's side of the family, they were kind of Germanic barbarians who teamed up with Charlemagne, and Charlemagne was like, "Hey, let's go and take over, let's go take over Europe." And they went over to France. They took over France. Then this guy named Bill, who eventually became a conqueror, decided that he was going to go take over England. And they're like, "Hey, that's a good idea." So we went and took over England, and then we got kicked out of England for being difficult, I suppose, and and eventually ended up in America. Actually, what's really weird is so apparently Edward de Vere, the guy that they think was Shakespeare, he's an ancestor of mine. He looks just like Dad. I was in when I was in England in 2016ish or so, 2017 is during the Trump years. I don't remember exactly when. I went and visited the castle that my ancestors built, and they had a statue of Edward de Vere, and he looked just like my dad, except if my dad were wearing like a frilly Renaissance, uh, neck thing, where they had the little frilly circle thing they put around your neck, which I'm so glad I'm so glad fashion has changed. Oh my God. I would not want to be wearing tights and a frilly, poofy thing around my neck. Hey, Shadow Wolf. Um, but I mean, I know that on my dad's side of the family, I'm like the whitest person ever, except for like I had a friend who was like all Norwegian. She was all like Norwegian and Irish, so she was probably like the whitest person ever. Whereas I'm only like, the kids would joke in when I was a little kid that I was only half white and half Greek. But no, I mean Dad's side of the family is like the whitest ancestry ever. So I definitely have my white privilege card. Whatever. I haven't figured out how to cash that in yet. But when I do, boy, am I going to cash that shit in. You know the real concern that I have is where do we go from here? It was not a surprise that my friend is very uncomfortable about the way things are going in America. I mean, he was definitely, and I don't even want to say he was on the other side because I don't think he likes the Democrats much either because the Democrats have kind of a bad track history of screwing over their people too. Um,
Well, the whole reason Camilla lost, besides having no platform, was that they were alienating half their voter base.
they definitely alienated the white working class who shifted hard for Trump. I mean, I know a lot of Democrats here in Oklahoma who voted for Trump for president and then voted Democrat down ballot, which is why I think you saw so many such a weird voting records in different swing states where they voted for
Oh
Trump
yeah,
and then
then
uh,
AOC.
yeah. Now most of these people were
And it's
uh,
funny because AOC was really badly thought of early on in her career. Now she seems to be getting much better.
well, she's kind of chilled out a little bit, and she's starting to kind of fall in line with what the Democrats want. I mean, I don't follow her that closely because I think she says a bunch of stupid shit on the internet, but that's kind of her shtick, I guess. When she pretended to be crying at the border wall and got caught lying about that, I was like, whatever. Um, to be honest, the only honestly the only real politician I follow that closely is uh, Thomas Massey. Mostly because I want to see what he's going to build next. He has his off the grid farm that's all like solar and you know totally sustainable. And he and his wife were both MIT engineers. She passed away unfortunately, and so I follow what he does because he seems super badass. Um, and then you got kind of everybody else. I mean, I have to admit I like Tom Cole, who's my local rep, mostly because his office uh, has always taken care of me and my friends whenever we have a problem. A lot of people don't realize this, but your congressman's office will intervene in matters for you. So, like when I was long, long ago, when I was applying for a job with the Secret Service and my application got lost, Tom Cole's office got that sorted out. So his office manager is amazing. Um, and so whenever I've had to deal with various like government bullshit, his office has intervened. So I do like him, even though I don't always agree with what he has to say. Um, but uh, when we do disagree on things, he explains why he takes that position, and there's always sort of a nuance. So I can understand, and I don't always appreciate it, but I can kind of understand. But generally, I really like Thomas Massey, and then everybody else is just sort of not Thomas Massey. Um, the They did a conservative men's calendar where it's just 12 pictures, one for each month, 12 pictures of Thomas Massey fully clothed holding a copy of the Constitution, which I thought that's just fucking hilarious. Um, so no, he's definitely he's my, but I don't think he would ever make a good president because I think in order to be president, you have to deal with enough compromising situations that it probably sucks your soul out. I mean, look how Obama went from black hair to white hair in 8 years. He just aged so much. Look at those pictures
Oh,
of
no
Abraham
kidding.
Lincoln. Look at the pictures of W or of Reagan. Well, Reagan was already old. Um, Trump doesn't seem to be getting old. Trump actually seems to be getting younger in as president, and I don't understand quite why that is, but I think he actually has fun doing it, and that probably has has something to do
I
with it.
think I think that's what it is. He knows everyone hates him, so he's just having fun with it. He's 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 I think he's just making it up to be like he's the most evil thing, and he's just going to be a chill guy throughout the entire presidency.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: if you're gonna be a supervillain, you might as well own being the supervillain. I mean, that's not that I would ever want to be a supervillain, but what was it? Was it Megamind, where he where the guy's the supervillain, he just owns it, and so like if I'm gonna, because I'm kind of an asshole sometimes, especially with work stuff, because I sort of business is rough. You sometimes have to be. My hair is so misbehaving. Um, but if you're gonna be the asshole, you might as well just own it and just I don't know. But Trump turns it up to 11. So I don't. I'm glad I don't have that job. I would never want to be president. It seems like a very unpleasant job. But I mean, to all of my Democrat friends out there, Trump's going to do Trump things. Y'all knew what he was going to do. He wasn't trying to hide it. He said he was going to do all this shit, and now he's doing it. I am honestly very surprised he's actually doing all the things that he said he would do as quickly. It's been, frankly, overwhelming. I can't even watch the news anymore because I just get completely overwhelmed by it. And to all my Republican friends, I mean, y'all knew what you were voting for, and you got it. I mean, Trump has a unique set of character flaws that makes him uniquely able to butt heads against the powers that be that had it in for him. And y'all wanted the bull in the china shop, and now you have the bull in the china shop who's lit on fire and going at it. And I am generally very optimistic about the future. Maybe it comes from I mean, I don't make a big deal about it, but I have a pretty strong faith, and I have God's kept me from screwing up too bad so far. I think that we're gonna get through this. Um, do I believe that America has a certain divine providence to it? Maybe, I don't know. Um, but I think we're going to be all right. But I do think that the next 4 years are going to be a pretty wild ride. And I'm not sure what we're going to have when we come out the other side. It's definitely going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be different. Now, I have friends who are very committed to resisting what they see as being a very bad situation, and I encourage that. Look, you do what you have to do. Um, and I have friends who are very in favor of what's going on, and they're gonna support it, and you do what you have to do. I mean, my official policy is I'm staying out of it. I'm just focused on my immediate community. I'm going to help the city of Norman as much as I can to be as nice of a place as possible. And I'm going to build up my business and create a nice, safe environment for people to hang out, get their computers fixed, do technology stuff, gamer nerd stuff, things like that. Because I think that's as big of a burden as I can handle right now. I think that, and this might actually be a Jordan Peterson thing. I think that we should all take on a burden that's as big as what we can handle, and we should carry that burden because that makes us a better person. And I encourage
And
everybody
keep
to
your room clean.
what?
And keep your room clean.
And clean your room. Yeah, that's right. Well, the clean your room, where that comes from, I think, is you want to get your own shit together before you start telling other people what to do until football comes around. I honestly I much prefer to play football than to watch football, but I can't run, I can't catch, I can't throw. I can tackle people, but I'm not that big. And so, like, I'm not that good at football. I could do okay in wrestling because you're wrestling against other people your size, roughly speaking. In football, so like when we're doing, I would do this medieval combat sport thing where we did a football-like game where we had to get a 50-pound punching bag to the opposing team's end zone, and there weren't so many rules. You just bash people along the way. And, it helped that I was wearing a lot of armor, and I weighed like 315 pounds in all my armor, and I could smash through a bunch of other gamer nerds. Um, but against some of the big people, there's this one guy that I was fighting, and he was a college football player, and this dude was fucking huge. He was, at least 6.5 feet tall. In all of his armor, he had to be at least 400 pounds, and he was stacked. And he smacked me with my shield and sent me flying like it was nothing. So I mean, yeah, I'm probably not going to play football, but it's fun. It is fun. No, I think that we should all carry the biggest burden we can carry because it makes us a better person. Help the people we can help. I do believe in a bottom up philosophy. I think we need to protect our family, our friends, our community, and then you can start worrying about state and federal. But I think people who try to solve the federal problems first and then work their way down, I think that's very hard, and I think that's probably beyond me. So, um, if I can take care of my family and my friends and my local community and provide a good experience for them, that's probably all that I'm capable of doing right now. Because I've got a lot of my own problems that I'm dealing with that until I overcome those, I don't think I'm in a position to do much more. And maybe that's the coward's way out. I think my friend and I would maybe disagree on that. He's trying to tackle things. He's trying to solve problems on a more national scale. But he's probably also more capable of doing that than I am. He's a much better communicator than I am, and he's very motivated. Um, so, and finding the things that you're passionate about while also paying the bills, that's a difficult balance. But I've got too many responsibilities right now that I got to take care of. Vorgath, you have too many responsibilities that you got to take care of too. You got a family to look out for. So I don't see you protesting anytime soon. Anyway, um, anybody have anything else anybody wants to talk about, or should we wrap it up? I didn't quite realize we were going to go this long. It's been an hour and 15 minutes already. Wow. We're all flawed. That's how it is. Yeah, Shadow Wolf, I think you're right. I mean, we all have our flaws, and we have to overcome those. And overcoming our flaws and becoming better people is definitely something that we need to work on, and that's an individual journey. We all have our journey that we have to make. And I can't really help you that much with your journey. I can maybe give examples from my journey. I can try and live a good life and help those along my way. But no, we all have to deal with our flaws, and our flaws are all going to be different. Um, what I would say is that we should all treat each other with respect. Even if the other person doesn't deserve respect, you should still treat them with respect and be supportive of anybody trying to improve themselves. Um, because that's difficult. That's a difficult journey. All right.
Oh, that's one thing in my line of work. I come across a lot of people, and I'm telling you, I'm worn out on trying to be sympathetic with a lot of the people I interact with.
Really? Why is that?
Just the constant having to remove them from places that they've gotten themselves banned from, and the constant drug use and alcohol abuse and all that.
Well, that's true. I mean, the rules are kind of different once somebody's doing drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. That
But then you get the occasional ones, like, as much as they annoy me, the last thing I want to hear about is them dying, like,
right.
and
Well,
whatnot, right?
dying is bad. We should all be opposed to dying.
But occasionally there are a few, and one of them who has been pissing me off for years. Sadly, his mother died, and he left for a while. But now he's come back. He's got a job. He's not drinking. He's improved himself in so much ways, and I'm thrilled for the guy.
Well, and we should. That's like I said. We should all be supportive of people who are actively trying to improve their lives and improve themselves. But but you're right. It is very hard to be sympathetic when somebody's doing drugs and putting themselves constantly in bad situations. And and there's some demographic differences in that as well. We've seen over time, government, big government has targeted certain minorities for certain problems, uh, trying to cause problems for different groups, and that's so you can have a group effect on things like that. I'm definitely opposed to that, but a lot of times getting out of those messes is an individual basis, and I think that's one of the tough parts in life is that you want to be able to help other people, but you don't want to drag yourself down in the process. Uh, how much do you help before it's too much? And you've got to prior. This is why I say you've got to have kind of a hierarchy of priorities. You've got your family, your immediate friends, and you've got the people in your local community. Then you've got maybe people in your local, region, your state, then your country, then the world as a whole. But I think you have to have some sort of priority list that otherwise you end up taking on too many problems and become overwhelmed. And it's better, I think, to solve one problem completely than to half-ass not solve 10 problems and fail at all of them. And so I think that people need to focus on doing what they can do. And as long as you're doing things in a positive direction, and maybe this is just me being a normie again, um, I think that people need to, as long as you're moving in a positive direction and helping take people in a positive direction, that I think overall there's a net increase in good in the world. And maybe that's really what we ought to be focusing on, trying to create a net increase in good, because I think it all adds up over time. At least I'd like to hope so. So, maybe I'll wrap it up there. Let's all aspire to adding good to the world so that we have a net increase in good, and at least try not to do bad things. So, I'm going to go rest for a little bit. I've got a few things that I have to get done, and then I will probably get on and game a little bit tonight. But I just sort of had this had this subject on my mind thanks to talking to my friend about it, and I need to thank him about it. Because he and I often agree on the problems, but we don't always agree on the solutions. And maybe we'll have more conversations like this at nighttime, because sometimes it's easier after hours. Never be afraid to try something new. I would, Shadow Wolf, I would generally agree with that. There are some caveats. So, like, I'll generally try new foods, but there's certain things I'm allergic to, and if I know that this new food has something in there that I'm allergic to, obviously I'm not going to try that. Um, I think that trying new things is important. It's one of the reasons why I like to go to a lot of different places. I think that we should be mindful of the new things that we're doing. There's some new things that I would not be inclined to try just because it sounds like a bad idea. And so what I would say is I think that people should be open to new experiences, but you should do it incrementally. Don't like try something radically different that you have no basis of judging, because sometimes that turns out to be pretty bad. Um, I'm not going to just go randomly fly to a war zone, for example. I know some people do that. Lord Miles, I have a lot of respect for you. I think you're nuts, but I have a lot of respect for you. Um, I think that, and each person has a different amount of risk tolerance, but we should all be open to new experiences, because that's how we grow and expand our mind and expand our horizons. So I think you're correct, Shadow Wolf. In general, I think that there's specific instances that I might disagree with that, but in general, but life is full of nuance, and there's always specific things that you should be. Use common sense. I know common sense is not very common, but use common sense. All right. Does anybody else want to add anything before I sign off?
Nah, I'm good.
All right. Vorgat, thanks for hanging out with me, man. I appreciate it. Shadow Wolf, other guy, everybody in chat. Thanks for hanging out. I had a lot of fun. And we'll
I
do
just
this.
happened to be flicking through YouTube Shorts when you popped up.
Oh well, there you go. Yeah, I wasn't think. Originally I wasn't planning on making this such a long stream. I was just gonna have a quick little express my thoughts, mostly because I wanted to do my, where's America on a scale of 1 to Serbia. But this turned out to be pretty good. What's interesting is that I wonder if YouTube is shadow banning me or doing something weird, because I don't think I've gotten a single new subscriber. Oh no, I did get one.
You know,
Um,
it suggested you turn off notify subscribers.
that I should turn off notify subscribers.
Yes. That way it doesn't just notify your subscribers, it just pops you up for everyone. Again, like,
Now, where does it say notify subscribers?
or is that just for shorts? I'm
I
not
think that's
sure.
just for. I don't do shorts, but I've noticed ever since I started doing the. So when I labeled one of my Bob's lunch breaks as a news and under the news and politics category, I hadn't gotten a single. I've been stuck at 221 to 222 subscribers ever since. Um, and I wonder. So then I started labeling these as entertainment, because it's really more entertainment. I'm not trying to be. I'm not specifically trying to be accurate. I'm not trying to lie to people either. But I'm not doing my due diligence to fact check things. I'm just talking from my personal experiences and whatnot. Um, but and maybe I should just focus on doing fat gamer nerd things, because that's what YouTube seems to like. Actually, I guess we've had a lot of people watching this so far. Who knows? I mean, look, if you guys like the sitting down doing the Bob's lunch break and just talking about just different stuff like this, then I'll keep doing it. Because this is mostly for my subscribers. And then the video game stuff is more, I mean, I'll play games because I want to. And but it's interesting how the YouTube algorithms work. I'm still kind of learning about that. Anyway, I'm gonna go take a break, and I will probably play video games later. I'll probably do some Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, but I'm not sure. I may do some BattleTech. I'll see what kind of mood I'm in. Uh,
Get into World of Warcraft again.
yeah, I should. Yeah, maybe I should expand the games that I play. Um, Although I tend to like to play through a campaign before I try something else. But I may do some Warhammer 40k stuff. There's a Warhammer 40k game that I haven't played in a while. I don't remember what it's called. I've got it on Steam. It's not Space Marine. It's a strategy, turn-based strategy game. And maybe I'll play some of that. We'll see. So, all right. I'll see you guys a little bit later. I'll try to stream tonight, and we'll see. So, thank you and goodbye.